This video is proudly sponsored by DigimonCard.io for all your Digimon card, deck building, deck list, card pricing, and discussion needs.
Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have an updated tier list for the Digimon BT9 meta. We've had about a month of events, pretty much like a dozen large events and like countless amounts of store championships and stuff. So a lot of good data, and I'm really excited to dive into this, especially since I'll be the first to admit a lot of my kind of choices for my prediction tier list didn't really pan out. There were a lot that I think I got wrong, and I want to kind of correct that, especially with the data that we've seen here today. So above me, there's going to be a picture of the original tier list for people who want to see how it's changed, at least my opinion has in the last month. There's also going to be a link to my master spreadsheet that has all of the events that at least I've covered for the BT9 meta. So if you guys want to see a deck list, any finishes, any placings, that data is for you free in the description. And also, if it isn't obvious, I'm a little sick right now. So if I sound a little nasally or just if there's a lot of breaks because I have to cough during it, that's why. But we're just going to jump on into it with the first guy here, and it is the Commandromon. And man, this is a very happy surprise for me. This is a deck, I'm going to put it highly competitive. It's been doing a lot of work, I'd say, and it's the best Commandromon has ever been, which is saying a lot because Commandromon's been one of the kind of oldest archetypes in the game, and it's always been like a theory of, oh, this could be very good, but it just never ever took off rightly. And now it has. I'd say there's a lot of good stuff with it. It's very strong, and it just has like a lot of sneaky kind of like security cards that can really disrupt a lot of plays that exist in the meta right now, and I really enjoy playing it. So I think it's worth it being in highly competitive. It's made a lot of top 16 tops this month, and it's been super fun. So next up, we're going to have Ancient Greymon. I don't know. I think top end of competitive, low end of highly competitive. I might switch this by the end of the video, but I think competitive is kind of where it lands. We'll talk. There's honestly a lot of red aggro decks, and I don't think Ancient is by and large the best one as it is. I think it is very strong, and it did get a W this month as well. So I'm not trying to short sell it. I'll see how I put it here. It hasn't been doing a lot though. I think it's fine and competitive, and we're just going to leave it there for now. Jesmon, it's yeah, I got that. This is one of the few hits I got for this one. Next up, Security Control, and I'm gonna put this in competitive too. It's got a couple of top 16 tops, and I think it's a deck that people have to respect right now. But I don't think it's a deck that's really getting a lot of good tops. It's got a couple top 16s, but nothing super impressive, I think, from at least, I don't think there's been any top fours. I think it's been, I would say X1s, but probably X11s who are able to sneak in. I think it's an okay list to kind of top, but sometimes it's a deck that kind of works against itself, especially with the time rules. So though that's not anything new, but I don't know, Security Control is okay. I think competitive is where it lands, and we'll go from there. Next is Beelstar, and I almost want to put in playable. I'll put in competitive for now. We'll see how I feel. I really do like Beelstar in this meta, which is a real shame because it hasn't been doing anything, honestly, and I'm not quite sure why that is. I think it has a lot of security control aspects that can just win you the game on the spot, and but as well as being able to play around additional security controls. And I guess it just really depends if you get this OTK going on, and like once Three Musketeers loses its security, it doesn't really have a good way to get it back. So I think that's kind of like one of the weird things is like control deck like this, because most control decks are like yellow and you have a lot of ways for recovery. Purple, if you're able to cheese in a couple of swings, and they can never really recover that, and that can always be an issue. So I think competitive, it can maybe be docked down to playable. I don't know. It hasn't really been doing much, despite me liking as much as I do. So next up, we do have and I put this, this was highly competitive previously, and I think, yeah, I'm knocking it down. I wish it was a little bit better. Yellow, I'd say, here, I'm going to talk about both of them at the same time. So like true yellow hybrids, I think that's playable, but like a red yellow build, there's a couple different builds of this like red yellow hybrid stuff. There's not really a clear line for a lot of it. I'm just going to kind of lump it all together because it's all doing the same thing, which is like topping a 16 every once in a minute, and it's almost always like the 16th place based on like 15th or 16th from it. So I think it's really cool. It's a shame that it, Jet Sylphie, as much as like the recovery effect is like the problem in a lot of ways. I think the thing that a lot of the decks really, needed was just a cheap evolve for one to get to your level 6 faster. Like even without the recovery part, if this was just something you digivolve for one on top of a something with a as a tamer as a source, people would be playing this outright without the recovery effect for it, and without that kind of quick evo to a level 6. I think that a lot of decks that were in the Japanese BT9 meta just don't have the legs to stand on, which is a real shame. But anyways, that is for those two. Is there? I didn't have like a third one for it. No, I did not. Next up, blue hybrid. Let's see. And I think I moved this up one step. I think previously I had it down at playable. Blue hybrid. I'll keep it down at playable. That's fine. It did get a top 16 at Gen Con, but I think just playable is fine, and we'll just leave it there. Blue hybrids can still do blue hybrid things, but Tommy at 1 makes it incredibly harder, but it can do things. Next up, green hybrid. I'll put in the same, I guess. I don't know. I really like green hybrid, though it got it top 16 as well. What's my criteria, man? I don't know. We'll keep it in playable. As much as I really like green hybrid, I don't think it's doing as much as it used to either. Which I think I put in competitive earlier, and I just kept it playable. The thing is, it didn't really get anything from BT9. It's just still an EX2 deck, which is fine, but it just didn't. There's nothing super fancy, flashy for it. Next up, we do have the War Grey X. I'm going to keep this at highly competitive. I think, by and large, it is a slightly better version than Ancient Grey. I think it's just more consistent because of that, too. I think Ancient Grey can still go off a lot better than a War Grey X. Like, the high end of Ancient Grey is a lot higher, but I don't think it is in any spot just a competitive deck, not competitive, like a highly competitive deck, in the sense, like, I don't know, I think Ancient is like, I don't know, just one step back, but I think both are good. And if you're not prepared for this, which you should be prepared for OTKs and OTK meta, it can really go off. So next is Gallant X, and I'm going to put this way down in playable. I think I put in competitive because I was hopeful for it to be doing things, and it has done nothing, unfortunately. It may have gone one top. If it has, I've totally forgotten about it. And it's just like the flasher version of these two. It's just, I don't know. Of the three, it's definitely the worst of the 3 red aggro decks going on. And it's a real shame because Gallantmon can do some really cool stuff when it goes off. It's just kind of clunky, and it's really dependent on finding your tamers and just a lot of other things that make it really hard for it to consistently go off, which is a real shame, especially since it's a deck that can get a lot of momentum from getting single hits from security. And if that's not going on, if you go from 5 to 0 from OTK stuff, then that kind of just doesn't go on. So I don't know. I think it's I really like this deck, which is a real shame, but we're going to keep it there. Alphamon, whoop, right there. That one was an easy one. I got that one right. So shocker, crazy, huh? But then also, not too surprising, I think, for anyone here, we're moving the Metal Garurumon X all the way up to these two. It is replaced the grandest of these two, and I think everyone will say that these are the best 2 decks right now. That this can get some really good combo potential going on, especially with all the restand or unsuspending and like the security attack +1s you can get for stuff and the protection you get for battle. There's a lot of good stuff with this deck going on right now that I think it just outpaces what Grandis is doing. And we'll just talk about Grandis now, I guess, because it was up there. I'm going to put it at highly competitive. I think there have been a couple of tops with it, and there is a way for it, but I don't think it's as good as a lot of people expect it to be. I think it has some consistency issues, and I also think in kind of a meta where people are expecting this, it's a little bit easier to play around. But I don't know, it just has like a lot of green issues still, where you just have a bunch of level 4s in your hand and you don't find your level 5, and then what do you do with it, right? So I still think Grandis is strong. I still think obviously a lot of people have been topping with it, and I don't think it's a bad deck to stick to, but I don't think it's the consistency that Alphamon and Metal Garurumon X has been seeing this past month. Next up, Armor Rush. I'm gonna put in highly competitive. It's probably like the far right end of highly competitive. I think it's like slightly better than Ancient Gray. I think a lot of people are testing this out and a lot of cool things with it. But I also think that people who played this deck decided, you know what, Metal Garurumon is pretty much better and does a lot of the similar things that this deck does. So we're just going to switch to that, which I don't think is a bad idea to do that. But I also think that less people are topping with this and because of it. So I think it's fine. I think it's a fine deck, and it's one of my favorites, honestly. And it's I really do like the armor package and all the flexibility and kind of creative lines you can make with it. But in an OTK format, especially even with all their protection, there are so many decks that can get around with it, and Alpha and Metal can do some, like this one bounces back to hand, and then this one Digivolves, and so just you get around the things, and then you don't get to do your combos, which real sucks. So I don't know. It's right here. Another Alphamon, because I put one by accident and it won't let me delete it, so it's just going to sit there. But we have Guilemon, and I'm going to put Guilemon way up here. We're gonna rearrange these a little bit. This has been one of my joys from this, and I put this originally. Where did I put this? In the competitive, but I think it's earned its spot in the highly competitive play slot. I really have enjoyed seeing this do well, and in general, I played a lot of Blackboard Greymon in the previous set, and without it doing like super, it's just like was missing one big thing, and it was strictly Guilemon. Like, of course the X antibody packages have helped as well, but Guilemon just being there and being able to have blitz on a guy that can swing over Digimon is just really all you need. And then you get the reboot and security attack +1, and it technically can have blocker. Like, this just has so much stuff. Like, you could tell me this was Digivolve for 6 and I'd still play this card. It's so good for the archetype. It does so much, and it's very, very nice. So really happy to see all these Guilemon decks do well, and I don't think they're going to stop anytime soon. Next up, we do have Mother, and this one I got super wrong. I'm going to put it, I almost want to put it like way high. Let me rearrange some of these. Probably something like this. I'm going to put it highly competitive top of, and this is such a weird story. Like, Mother's won like 3 events, so I think toppest of high competitive is where it needs to be. And everyone was hyping up for the EX2 meta, says it's going to ruin the game, and then it did nothing for a whole month, and then I think everyone's like, okay, let's not go back to it. And then I got 2 cards, X Antibody and Death Xmon, and then it's topping and winning events all of a sudden. And I don't know if that just talks to how strong those 2 cards are just like the little kick in the pants that this deck needed, or just people retrying it out, or even just that this is a deck that kind of really works in an OTK format, but it does a lot of things, and a lot of people have to make sure that they have an option against this deck, especially since Gatekeeper locking you can still just win Mother some matchups. It's just very strong. So I'm going to keep it there. It's I hate that I'm playing Mother again, and it's I don't know, it's what it is. So watch out for those. Leomon, we're going to just put in playable. That's where I had it. I want him to do cool things. He didn't do cool things. It's okay. Do I put it down to good luck? Yep, I'm going to put it down. Good luck. No, not pulling any punches today. Buelzamon. Do we put in competitive? I really want to. All right, the 2 things that are keeping me, I don't know, playable competitive. It got 1 top 16 finish. 1 in person, 160 players. So that's fine. I'll keep it. I don't know. It's competitive if you have like the extra Impmon with it too, which we won't get for another 2 months. So we'll keep it there. It's like the playable competitive, which there, but like, nah, we're playing playable. This is my tier list. We're gonna do it. I want it to work. It's not very consistent right now, and that really stinks. So there it is. Next up, we have competitive for Mastamon. I put it the low end of highly competitive last time, and this is a deck that I've really enjoyed, at least in BT8. There's a lot of creative stuff you could do with it, and it pretty much got like a whole new archetype and line this entire set, and then it's got a couple tops and not really from there. And I think it's just more of the format that just is keeping this down. This is definitely a kind of grindy deck that really takes advantage of your opponent not being able to do 5 damage in 1 turn, but we are in a format where your opponent can deal 5 damage to you in 1 turn. It's hard to get a lot of incremental gains off of being alive or dead in 1 second. So I think it deserves to be in competitive, and we'll leave it there. Imperial I'm gonna put it right there, which is where I put it down in competitive. What was I thinking? I think Imperial still fine. It's okay. I think by and large, Metal Garurumon X is a better deck that's doing the same thing, but it's still fine. It's probably like it and Armor Rush are always going to be like two sides of the same coin. And if both are doing okay, then if one's doing okay, the other one's probably doing okay as well. So we're going to leave it there. Let's see. Shoutmon, we're going to put in good luck. I put in playable because I wanted it to do something, and it did not do nothing. So there it goes. And then lastly, just kind of like a Lilith Loop stuff. We're going to put this in competitive, just because I think like Purple Rush it's kind of like a catch-all for a lot of different decks. But I think this is like it's like a slightly better Mastamon, just because it's more flexible in its plays and it's not as bricky, I think. So I think that Lilithmon, like there's like Purple Rush, Lilith Loop, Cerberus Loop, there's just so many different names. It's really just a big old catch-all for all those kind of purple decks that just do purple things, I guess. I don't know how to say it, but I think it's fine. I think it's in the competitive spot. And that is the tier list. Let me see if there's any rearranging that I'd want to be doing. Probably put these and then just have purple in the back here. Put this here, this there. Yeah, do we put, oh man, do we disrespect Gallantmon that way? Nah, we won't disrespect him. All right. Yeah, this is probably where we're going to put it. So in general, I think a lot of people would agree that Alphamon and Metal Garurumon X are best decks in format. I think that's been shown again with the events. And then from there, the highly competitive. Honestly, so it's kind of a weird scenario we have where there's so many decks that are quote unquote in the format, but they all do the same thing. It's just a different deck, like a deck with a different sleeve, right? Where it's, oh, we just rush you down, like, and they do the same thing. And it's you're using a lot of like, I don't know how to say it. If you guys have been playing the format, you kind of know what I'm saying, but it's just it's all kind of rush deck. There's not a lot of control. There's not a lot of different play styles. It's just see who can win the fastest, go for it. And then if you hit a bad security, you lose the game. That's the game that we're playing right now. And sometimes that can just be super fast games that are hard to take seriously at times. But when you do get that grindy match, it does feel very fun, and I do appreciate that. But a lot of these decks that you'll see in this highly competitive are pretty much doing the same thing. They're just very aggressive base and not as much control, just because the aggressive decks do have a lot of outs for your control options, and you can't really play against that very easily. So anyways, this is my tier list. Let me know what you guys think about this. Again, if you guys want to see the tournament reports that I've done for the BT9 meta, there's a link to that in the description. Let me know what I still got wrong. I'd be happy to hear what you guys say in the comments, and that is going to be it for me. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I'll catch you all next time.